Hello, Covenant County. Welcome to a special segment of Good News Covenant County with my special and good friend over here, Bobby Bright. He's running for Congress from this area as a Republican this time.
That's right.
And we've been talking before the show, and I know you from somewhere, Bobby, and I normally I can connect the dots, but there must be those years with the CIA that I didn't see you in.
Secret Service, CIA.
You were with them, I wasn't.
That's right. I thought you were the investigator.
No. But Bobby Bright's running against several other people. And, you know, Bobby knows that we don't go negative on people on this show, and he also knows that this is not a live broadcast, so he makes a mistake, we can go back and edit it. If his teeth come flying out in the middle of the speech,
or my hair falls.
Or your hair falls, too late. Falls out, then we'll stop it and we'll let you put your toupee back on or your teeth back in, clean up, and we'll start all over
Glue
again.
my hair back on.
That's right. But anyway, I'm going to try to, which is hard for somebody that sits in this seat to do, keep quiet. Tell us about where you came from, Bobby.
Okay. Absolutely, Jay. Let me first thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Sure, not a problem.
Talking with the people of Covenant County, I think is so important to let them know who's running, what those people stand for, and what those people may be able to do for them when they go to Washington, D.C. It's kind of simple. I'm an old farm boy. I was born and raised on a farm in Dale County. I'm 65 years old, so a lot of folks want to know why at this age would I want to go to Washington, because I've still got probably 10, 15, maybe even 25 good years left. And I've got a lot of experiences and a lot of experience in helping people and getting things done. When as you know, I've got 16 years as a lawyer. I've got 10 years as a mayor of our capital city, Montgomery, and 2 years in Congress that I served in 2009 and 2010 for this district.
Now that's Congress. That's not in the State House.
That's right.
In Montgomery. This is in Washington.
Washington, D.C. So I know the ropes before I even get there. And if I'm honored by being chosen to serve again, it won't take me 2 years or even a period of time to understand and be able to get to work. I will already have that experience, and I will start from day one representing to the max the people of District 2. And I am a product of the district. I'm not someone that lived in Montgomery and lived there all my life and was educated in Montgomery. I was born and raised in Dale County. My father and mother were sharecroppers on a farm, and I had 13 brothers and sisters. I was number 13 out of 14 children.
Wow. And
my daddy and my mom pretty much instilled in me hard work, but more importantly, integrity and honesty. My daddy would always tell me, son, you don't ever go and beg for anything. What you do is you earn it. Right. You work for it and earn it, and that's the best way you live your life. And so, first 20 years of my life, I was in Dale County, educated at Carroll High School and Enterprise State Junior College, where I was elected by the student body as Mr. Bow Weevil. I tell that story because it also connects me with Coffee County.
Right.
And when I met my wife in Montgomery, she asked me if I'd ever done anything in life, and I said, well, I've been going to school quite a bit, and I went to Enterprise Junior College, and I was elected Mr. Bow Weevil. And she looked at me and she said, Mr. Bow Weevil? I said, yes. And she says, well, that's very fitting because you're nothing but a pest anyway. So she said that to me, and I learned very quickly that she was my type. So I quickly attached myself to her, and we got married, and we've had 3 children.
Right.
One son, Bobby Jr., 2 daughters, Lisa and Katie. All 3 of them are married, and they have given Lynn, my wife, and I 3 grandchildren with another one on the way. So
wow.
We'll have 4 grandchildren by the time I take office in this coming January. And so, but anyway, Lynn and I have been married now. November will be 40 years. So we've had
That's great.
40 years, and I love her more today than I did when I met her, or married her.
I can say that about my wife too.
You better say that about
No,
you.
I mean, I'm like you. I mean it.
I
And it's
really
not
do.
fear either.
Absolutely.
It's genuine.
We have grown together as the years have gone by. We've grown together, and I would not be what I am without her. And I hope she feels the same way about me. So, and I think she does. She served on the bench for Alabama for 25 years as
Wow.
a state district court judge in Montgomery County.
Wow.
So she's got more experience than.
Folks, we've got a fly in here, and it's not because we smell bad or anything like that. They're everywhere.
Yeah,
you know.
it's hot weather, summer
Hot
weather,
weather.
and they're all coming out.
And we've got gnats.
Gnats, that's right.
And so she's a pretty qualified and capable
Very-
individual herself.
Very qualified, very capable, and she's lived with me for 40 years, and I think I've kind of raised her and taught her everything she knows and needs to know about life. And
Yeah, I bet she took a few rough edges off you too, though.
she took a lot of rough edges off of me.
Well, Bob, we're going to stop right here for a break. We'll be back shortly.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome back to Good News Covington County. I'm visiting with our friend Bobby Bright, who's a Dale Countyan and farmer.
Absolutely.
Carries the highest, I think the highest recommendation you can give to anybody. He might be a redneck.
I am.
But he's been in politics. He's been a mayor of Montgomery, and he served in Washington as a member of the House of Representatives. And he's telling us, a little bit about himself. How did you get into politics? Now, you don't impress me as a guy that woke up one morning when he was 9 years old and decided I wanted to be a politician. Something made you want to do that.
I try to look back and determine what really was the okay moment to do that, but it really stems back from my upbringing as a young boy in a really poor family. We were extremely poor.
Right.
And I was the 13th out of the 14, so I saw my brothers and sisters all grow up and struggle with employment, jobs, struggle even with the law, struggle even with alcohol abuse,
Right.
even drug abuse on a couple of occasions, and often wondered, would I have the same end? Would I, if not given the opportunity, be left behind and not being able to live a dream, the American dream? And so I started exploring what would be a good area for me to go into that would be able to help my brothers and my sisters, my parents, my other relatives, and what would help, and in doing so and doing that, would it help my community? And so it was instilled in me a long time ago as a young boy to help people that can't help themselves. And so I looked around and said, what would be that profession that I could go into that might be able to help people? And so I chose being a lawyer. So I worked day and night, putting myself through. A lot of folks will come in and everybody's got a story, by the way. My story was that I was so poor that I had to work my way, not through college, I had to work my way through junior high school and high school.
I understand.
And so my older brothers, I was fortunate to have older brothers that would go before me, and they would have a roofing company or a sheet metal company or some business that they were running, and they would have to have labor. And so I was their built-in family labor. And so as I grew up, I worked my way through I knew, and I felt like the answer to my poverty and the poverty of my family and my community was a better education. So what I did is I worked my way through high school. I was the second of 14 children to graduate from high school. I was the only one to go on to college. I worked my way through junior college. I couldn't go to a 4-year university. Worked my way through Enterprise State Junior College. Worked my way through, went from Enterprise to Auburn, worked my way through Auburn. Every day, if I wasn't in class, I was working, doing something that had to pay my way. And so all during those years, I was developing the urge to be a public servant.
Right.
And I know a lot of politicians want to say they're public servants. They're only public servants for themselves, usually, or for some influential friend of theirs who gives them a lot of money for their campaigns or whatever. I am truly, truly a public servant who wants to help the family and the neighbors and the people in the community. I don't know what that was.
I don't either, but
somebody was
I
screaming.
hope nobody was hurt.
Yeah, somebody was screaming.
Yeah.
That person needed my help.
I might be scared to go out there and see what it was.
If we start hearing some firecrackers
Yeah.
popping, we won't go out.
Yeah, no, that's when I'll go out. I got to see that. But
Anyway, so that was, so to tell you when it happened, it happened over a period of years, and that's why I'm back in now, even after 7 years of being out of public service. I can't stand to sit on the sidelines and watch other people make out like they're doing something, and they're not. They're not serving the public, they're not serving the community, they're not serving the state or their district like they should be. And so I, over a period of time, realized that being a lawyer would be able to help me get into that area and represent a lot of folks that needed help. And then over a period of time, after 16 years, I said, you know what, I kept watching our leaders and kept watching them disappoint us all by saying they were going to do certain things, and they never did. They'd make hollow promises. So I said, you know what, it's time for me to get involved and make promises, but not only make those promises, but keep those promises. That's what I did as mayor of Montgomery. That's why Montgomery, the development has turned around, because I'm a doer. I'm not a talker. I talk to people, but I make sure that we do it. And I don't have to be in front of the camera. I want to be behind the camera, making sure that the factions out there with the good ideas come together, and I support them and make it happen. That's why I'm in politics, but public service. And politics is not the right term for me. I'm not a politician. I don't look like a politician. I'm not charismatic like a politician, but I do have the desire and the integrity and the experience to make sure that the job gets done and gets done right. So that's what I'm doing today.
well, I mean, that's pretty clear to me.
Well, some people say you can't be that dedicated. Yes, I am. You give me the opportunity, and the people of District 2 will never, ever regret it.
All right, well, we're going to shut down for a minute and sell some advertising. We'll be back shortly with Bobby Bright. Welcome back to our visit with Mr. Bobby Bright, candidate for the House of Representatives, District 2, homesteaded in Dale County,
That's right.
headed for Washington if everything goes the way he wants it to.
That's right.
We've talked about his background, and he's got an awful lot in common with most of us folks, and he's got a call to serve, I think he feels, and I think he's done a good job of explaining that to us. Just as an outside question, just out of, what's your feeling on term limits?
I think necessary.
Necessary.
If 8 years is what we hold a president to, 8 years should be sufficient and appropriate for a congressman.
Okay.
8 years. And by the way, I say that with a little follow-up. The present congressman in this position has 8 years. It's time for her to come on back home and get back acclimated to the needs of what we have back here in District 2. 8 years is enough for anybody.
We were, I know that you're a fiscal conservative.
I am. And social too.
And I was going to say during the break, and which is when you really get to know these guys and men and women that run for these offices. We talked about some things, and I think one of the things that's been hard for you and hard on you, Bobby, is the fact that you were a Blue Dog Democrat, and that I think you probably did a pretty good job as a Blue Dog Democrat, but politics got to be so polarized here in Alabama that that got to be a real liability for you.
It did.
And and if I don't know if I can wrap my head around what I'm trying to say, but you didn't change, everything around you changed.
That's
I mean, your positions on, listening to you talk, your positions on spending didn't change, your position on right to life or pro-life, which is what you are, didn't change, your position on the Second Amendment didn't change.
No.
But a lot of the people that were around you had, and that kind of left you out on an island.
It did.
That's what, as I understand it, and you did what you thought was the morally right thing to do, which was find a party that reflected what you believed in, the closest to what you believed in.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm not trying to make apologies or excuses for them, but I think that's how you ended up where you're at today. Because, and I think there are some people that are Democrats that maybe resented that would still vote for you, and I believe there's probably some Republicans that maybe resented that might ought to seriously consider voting you. Because if you're a wise man and you know the state of Alabama like you do right now, if you'd been run as an independent, you'd have been crushed.
That's right.
And you know, now you're trying to represent some ideas that sound familiar to an awful lot of your constituents. And folks, that's not an endorsement. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how Bobby got here. You know, I'm not endorsing anybody, and if I did, it'd probably lose them votes instead of gaining. But I think I think it's really important that people get the feel for the fact that you're where you're at because you made an emotional and moral decision, not because you made a political one.
That's right. That's right. And I couldn't describe it any better than what you just did, John. And that's what I want people out here in the Covington County and Andalusia community to realize. Party labels, in my opinion, are hurting our country more than helping our country. And when I chose to run as a Democrat, a blue dog conservative Democrat, back over 10 years ago, there was still some sense of hope in certain segments of that party that conservative ideals would be appreciated and grow and possibly grow. So I, being turned away by the Republican leadership to help me win the position as a Republican, I looked for other alternative ways. As I said earlier, as an independent, which is usually in Alabama is just a spoiler, and I didn't want to be a spoiler. I wanted to be congressman. I chose, with the assistance of a lot of blue dog Democrats in the South who were very conservative also, to enlist their support. And they did. They followed through and helped me raise the finances that it takes to run a multi-million-dollar campaign. A lot of folks don't realize that it costs that much to run one of these campaigns, but it does. So you're right. I changed from a D in front of my name to an R in front of my name. And you know what?
Have you changed?
I haven't changed a bit. And the other day we had some speakers. I've been to about 12 or 13, maybe 14 forums throughout the district with the other candidates and a lot of other state candidates that are running.
And you got some fine people that are opposing you.
We've got some good people opposing us. Now, we've got a couple that you need to do a little bit more research about, but most of them are all good folks. They're all good Christians. They're all good patriot people that want to serve the country. But you need to do your research and make sure that who you're voting for is not misleading you on what they believe on the issues.
Okay.
But to me, I'm a product of the district. I am a conservative, both socially and physically, and I am a product of this district. And doesn't matter if I've got an R or a D in front of my name. To me, I'm going to be the same person. But anyway, those candidates that I was going to talk to you about, one got up and said, "Well, I've been a lifelong Republican," like as if that's the standard for being elected to public service in this district.
Reagan wasn't.
To me, that's not the standard. You're right. Ronald Reagan was not. Shelby was not. Kay Ivey was not. Even Donald Trump was not a lifelong Republican. What is important to me is and I tell folks this, because when that person got up and said, "I'm a lifelong Republican," it was a dig at me. And what I did when I got up there, I said, candidate so-and-so, I understand what you're saying, but let me tell you, I'm not a lifelong Republican. I am a brand new, labeled Republican, but you know what's most important? I've been a lifelong conservative. That's what's important, not the label in front of a person's name. And not only that, people can look at me and go and research my background. I've got a proven record. I mean, even as a Democrat, I was conservative both physically and socially. So I'm not just telling you I was, I have a record to prove I was. And not only that, my record as mayor of Montgomery and in Congress for 2 years is a progressive, a growing record, growing jobs, creating atmospheres for businesses to grow. And when you do that, you create an atmosphere of more jobs for the people that you represent, and they can take those jobs and then support their families. That's what I'm about.
We got to stop for a minute and take a break. We'll be back shortly.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Good News Covington County with our friend Bobby Bright, candidate for the United States Congress, District 2. Says he's going to Washington. We've had a great conversation thus far. You know, you were telling me that in all the time that you served in office, you've never had one ethics charge
Not one.
brought against you. And in all the years that you were an attorney, you never had
16 years.
16 years, never had an action brought by the law review or anything
Absolutely.
else.
Absolutely.
You know, that's I think it's important that the people know that about you.
In fact, I served on the ethics committee when I was practicing law in Alabama, and I would always hear complaints from lawyers and decide whether or not they had committed a violation.
Kind of hard sometimes to be ethical and keep your friends, isn't it?
It is. It really is. And I'll give you an occasion. I'll tell you, when I was elected mayor of Montgomery, some of my supporters who came forth and helped me be elected mayor, several of them, not all of them, several of them came to me after I was elected, and of course wanting favors, political or political paybacks. And I was very quick to always repel it and tell folks, no, that's not what we're going to do. So some of the biggest friends and biggest supporters I had to help me get to a position became probably my worst adversaries or my worst enemies. Not enemies, they wouldn't want to hurt you, but would not support you again.
Yeah.
That's what you do when you get in public service. And if you're lucky enough to be selected to represent a person or a position,
Right.
you have to always guard against the people who are using you for unethical or wrongful means.
Bobby, I know one thing that's near to you. In fact, two things that are near to you is the plight of the hospitals in rural areas and veterans.
Yes.
Can you give us a few minutes on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. If we don't do something and do something quickly, we're going to lose our rural hospitals. They cannot afford to continue to provide the care they're providing now. When I go to Washington, I will be very attuned to helping our rural hospitals. Many of them need resources, but they also need infrastructure. Part of that infrastructure that they need is broadband. They need better broadband.
We need broadband here in Andalusia.
Period. Everywhere in our district. Now, I've got experience with that because Troy Cable, when I was up before, they got a part of the stimulus money that was given back in 2010, and I lobbied and worked hard for them to get a portion of that broadband at Troy Cable so that they could better equip the people in District 2 with broadband, and they got it, and they were very appreciative, and that was a prime example of what a congressman can do if dedicated to make sure he improves the quality of life of his constituents. So the veterans, you mentioned the veterans, yes. The way I can help the veterans is to get back on that Armed Services Committee. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what your present congressperson says. You can get on the committee to select the president. But to help the people and the veterans in Alabama and in District 2, the best committee by far is the Armed Services Committee. Now, you're at the table when they're discussing new projects, new missions, and new efforts for military support and veteran support. And if you're not at that table, like we're not at that table now over the last 3 or 4 years, we're losing out. And the veterans are suffering as a result. The veterans in District 2 are suffering as a result of us not being at that table.
Well, you know, since you said that about the hospital, I can think within 40 miles of here, Elba's closed and Florella's closed, and it's a struggle for many other hospitals.
Do you know that if we have, and I'm focusing on one issue, and that's broadband.
Right.
But if we have broadband, the capability of broadband, a guy at
John Hopkins in
John
Boston
Hopkins
can have a presence in
can have a presence in a local facility
Yeah.
and save a life. And so I think one of the most important elements of supporting our community hospitals, number one, is to get them attached to the most updated broadband technology that they can provide,
Well,
and get them the financial resources to attach to it.
Well, I think it's a definite for industrial development.
It is, it is.
And, you know, if you've got a company that's based in Seoul, Korea, and they want instant communications,
That's
live, so to speak, what we've got won't satisfy them.
If
you know.
you've got the broadband, you can have the most knowledgeable expert in New York City or Washington D.C. involved in a ongoing surgical procedure here in Andalusia if necessary. And that's what, it can save lives, and we need to do that. But we also need to be looking for ways to help fund and stabilize our community hospitals also.
My friend and partner in crime here, Jared's had some experience, and he's off camera, but if you got any questions about the broadband thing, why don't we break right now? We'll actually give him good food in Dothan most of the time.
Talking about Ricky Stokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Ricky. He'll be there when I get there. He's been supportive.
3, 2.
Welcome back to Good News Covenant County. Again, we're here with Bobby Bright, candidate for House of Representatives, District 2, state of Alabama, going all the way to Washington if he wins. He hit a nerve with us.
Sure did.
At least us in this room when you started talking about bandwidth. And it was talking about the possibilities to use it in medicine, but there's just so many possibilities around here. And I'd like for you to talk about maybe some of your background in working with the two things I'd like for you to talk about. Both of them are industrial, because I think we suffer down here because of that. One of them is the part that you took in getting the Hyundai plant in Montgomery, and the other one is the part you took in getting bandwidth increased in Troy, Alabama, and what's available there. And then I'll shut up and let you go on that.
Well, I could spend probably a day or two talking about my involvement in bringing Hyundai to Montgomery. It was not just an overnight decision. It had to be, we had to bring in factions of different groups to help put together a plan that would entice somebody of that magnitude to come to Montgomery, Alabama. I won't ever forget the day that I was made aware of that project in my office. The Chamber of Commerce chairman came in, executive director, came in and said, "Mayor, we'd like to get your help to partner with Opelika and see if Lee County, and see if we can get a major
That wasn't Thunderbird, was it?
No, this was Randy George
Okay.
in Montgomery. He said, get a major employer, manufacturer to come to Alabama. He said, I think we could partner with them because they had just missed the Nissan plant over in Lee, when it went somewhere, I think, north, somewhere up there, one of the southern states. And he said, and we can partner with them and bring those jobs to Alabama, and we'll have some affect Montgomery somewhat. I looked at him and I said, Randy, I'm all for partnering with other cities and trying to help them do whatever we need to do. I said, but you know what? If we could put together a plan and bring that whole industry to central Alabama, then most of those jobs all of those jobs would stay here in Alabama. If we locate over in Lee County, most of those jobs, or many of those jobs, will come from Georgia. I said, I'm not above helping Georgia and helping Lee County, but why don't we put our own plan in If we're culled, then we will join in with Lee County at that point and see if we can lure them at that point. He said, that sounds good, let's try that. So I said, well, let's go put together the plan. We did. And history tells us that was a very good decision to make for Alabama. One other aspect of that is we had a commitment from the president and the owner of Hyundai to bring Kia also to Montgomery too. We had a verbal commitment. Over the years that followed, that verbal commitment never got put in writing, and we lost it, of course, to Georgia, the Kia plant. But I foresaw, as the mayor of Montgomery and the leader of our Central Alabama, I foresaw 2 major manufacturing plants in Central Alabama, and can you imagine what we would be experiencing today if that had happened? We blinked, and when we blinked, Georgia snapped Kia up, and we didn't land Kia in Alabama. Now, that was my involvement. I was very involved with the county, the utility boards, the education, and the governor's office to make Hyundai entice them to Montgomery, and we made that happen. Now, the process of making that happen was very complicated, and it would take all day for me to explain it. But you have to have that mindset to represent District 2 in Alabama when you go to Washington. I've got that experience, I've got that mindset, and we'll do everything possible to bring more of those fine jobs to Alabama. Now, the second issue that you wanted me to discuss was the broadband.
Well, the broadband, but I think really what the issue with broadband is we know what the technology is, we know what the technology can do.
Yeah.
What we don't know is how to get it here.
Yeah, well,
And
that's where your congressman.
priorities and the wherewithal are the answer, but,
Let me
talk
tell
to
you,
us to that.
I am so attuned to what broadband, or how broadband can improve the quality of life of our state and our district. And when I was there in 2010, Troy Cable, you may not have any connection with them.
Oh, we know who they are.
But they will be a witness to what I'm talking about today. When we did the stimulus program back in 2009, 2010, we had a lot of money that was distributed throughout the nation to help the economy, because our economy was tanking, and it was really, we were right on the verge of bankruptcy, quite frankly. People don't realize that. It was scary when I was up there in 2009, 2010. But we did a stimulus. I didn't support it because I thought it was not wisely distributed out there. But once it was passed, I lobbied hard to bring broadband and some of that stimulus money to Troy Cable, and they expanded their services in that area. Now, that was probably one of the most successful projects I worked on. I recognized early on the importance of broadband, and I still recognize that, and I will continue that effort as your representative, and not really just a representative, but your lobbyist in Washington for resources, financial resources and other resources, to make sure that Andalusia, Opp, Covington County, and 15 counties that I have get more and better broadband facilities in our district.
Well, Bobby, this is one of those interviews I kind of hate to bring to an end because it's been so interesting, but if we let it go on, they're going to think this is a continued story and that we're not being fair to everybody. I thank you for coming in, Bobby Bright. Folks, I always have to make this disclaimer. As I said earlier, there's not an endorsement here, even if I act like I like these people. Sometimes I do like them, sometimes I have to act. But even if I act like them, we're not going to endorse anybody because I don't want to lose anybody votes because they may not like me. But we want to remind you that this is not a paid political advertisement. This is an interview. That the views expressed by Bobby are Bobby's views. They may not necessarily be the views of this station. That's pretty much the way it lays.
But you can vote for Bobby Bright.
But you can't, you can vote for whoever you want to.
That's right.
But take the time and listen to these interviews. Listen to this man. Check the qualifications, as he said, on not just on him, but on his opposition. But for one thing for sure, go out and vote. That's real important. Thank you for your time today. We'll be talking with you later.